folks. Kim Mitchell here. You know, however you choose to get around, your ATV, your snowmobile, your boat, car, if you have a motorcycle, all these things take 100% of your attention and skill to operate safely. Alcohol impairs that, and bad things can happen. So, be smart, okay? You know what I'm going to say next.
This message brought to you from the Safe and Sober Awareness Committee.
A tragic car accident left 4-year-old Garrett Burgess paralyzed from a spinal cord injury. Then his family found help and hope at Shriners Hospitals for Children. Shriners Hospitals offer specialty medical care to children with orthopedic conditions, burns, spinal cord injuries, and more. The care Garrett received will enable him to lead a fuller and more active life. Call 1-800-361-7256 for more information. Shriners Hospitals, helping kids defy the odds.
Sway nibi wabo, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Nibi wabo andayan, aki misway nibi wabo. This is an Algonquin song. The words say, the water is the blood of Mother Earth. The water that I carry is the blood of Mother Earth. And the ladies are acknowledging the water. Nibi wabo andayan, Inasway nibi wabo. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh.
And we're back on Fresh Waves. That piece that you just heard was the Water Blessing song, and it's really kind of cool how the First Nations bless the water and they take the water so seriously. If you look at old maps, as Victoria Grant was saying the last time she was on air with us, that the old maps of the First Nations were all based on the waterways. They were all of the dividing lines were not just arbitrary lines thrown into the sand or the dirt. They were made by the rivers. And we are a river of nations, a nation of rivers. And when we take the water for granted, it used to be the only mode of transportation for vast distances. And it used to be such an integral part of the transportation system, and now it's an integral part of life, and it always will be. The water, we need to bless the water, and we need to really pay attention to what's going on with the water and the earth. And Mother Nature seems to be a little angry right now with all the storms that are going on and the fires out west, and now this huge hurricane that's blowing towards the Carolinas. She's not happy with us right now. We need to start paying attention to her again. Now, Victoria Grant is going to be coming to the library.
She is, yes. So she will be at the library tomorrow evening, and she's going to be doing a dialogue on truth and reconciliation in Canada. So the program runs from 6:30 until 8:30. It's a free program, and we just ask that you pre-register at the library so we know how many people are coming. But the program is going to talk a little bit about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada and how they completed their report in June of 2015 and what dialogue we need to engage in moving forward that came out of their calls to action, their 94 calls to action. So Victoria will be leading a dialogue on that, bringing in her own background and also talking a little bit about where we need to go to move forward. So it should be good.
Right. And I think she's going to pull it into the community itself, like really make this a discussion that's not, sometimes the discussion about truth and reconciliation gets so vast that you just think to yourself, well, where do I begin? Where do I start? How do I deal with this? And I think what she's going to be doing tomorrow night, from what I understand, is to really bring it into our community.
Yes.
And how we can deal with it and what our role is in the truth and reconciliation. And I think that's a really important piece of the puzzle. You know, it's that old adage, if everyone swept off their own doorstep, what a really neat and tidy world we would have. So it does begin at home. And I think she said, what does this mean to you as a Canadian? What would you like to learn more about? Do you have questions that you would like to ask or discuss? And how does our community of Stouffville participate in this process?
Yeah, correct.
Those are really key questions. Really key questions. And I guess we should say, too, that Victoria is a First Nations woman who does a lot of public speaking, and I can honestly say she believes wholeheartedly in education being the key to the truth and reconciliation, is that it's education on everyone's part and learning a respect and things like that. So if you've ever had a curiosity about truth and reconciliation, if you've ever had one of those moments where you say, well, I didn't do it, it wasn't me, why should I have to pay for what my ancestors did? I didn't do anything. I'm a nice person. I'm not going to make anyone go to a residential school. There are things that we can do, and we do have to be responsible for our forefathers. And in as much as we can be proud of what some of the things that they did, we also have to stand up to the plate and say, yeah, what they did was wrong and we need to move forward from here. But that's the key, the moving forward piece. And the moving forward, I think, is starting with education.
Yes, I agree. So yeah, she'll be touching on those for sure. And then in the following week, so the 19th, speaking about moving forward, so the library is also hosting another workshop. It's called the Blanket Exercise. So this is an interactive workshop. It runs on the 19th of September from 7 till 9. It's for ages 16 and up. And it is an exercise where participants take on the roles of Indigenous peoples in Canada, and standing on blankets that represent the land, they walk through pre-contact, treaty-making, colonization, and resistance. So it's very powerful, and it should be something that if people are interested, then they can ask for more information about the library on that as well.
Sounds like a good 2-part series. Go 1 week and hear Victoria, and then go the next week and do the blanket ceremony.
Yeah. And Victoria will also be doing some more programs for us in the later fall, so you'll have to stay tuned for those as well. Great.
Well, we hope to keep in touch with you.
Absolutely.
So that we'll be able to bring that information to everybody. I talked with Victoria earlier this year. She was on in the spring. So if anyone's interested in hearing that conversation, you can go to our podcast, right, Jay?
Yeah, go to freshwaves.ca and go to the shows section, and it should be there.
Okay, under shows, you'll see Victoria Grant. And we did have quite a discussion and talked a lot about education. So this will be the add-on to that discussion, the fact that she'll be answering some questions. And I think a lot of people have questions.
I think they have questions, and sometimes they don't know who to ask them to. And it's helpful that she's got such broad experience in order to make you feel comfortable asking the question. So,
and what a nice thing for the library to do, to be used as a community hub that way, as a source of information for people, because I'm sure once they get into the library and they're talking with Victoria, there are a lot of publications and books that people may not know of that are really helpful in this way.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was listening to CBCQ yesterday morning, and Wab Canoe, who is a pretty prominent author, educator, he just released a new book yesterday called Go Show the World, a celebration of Indigenous heroes. So it's a really powerful book for children about the difference that Indigenous people have made throughout history, and that they're people who matter, and they need to show the world what they can do. So really powerful message, and great for getting, kind of those messages across and starting people on this journey of reconciliation.
Mm-hmm. And we're quite lucky here in Whitchurch Stouffville to have Jane Philpott,
Yes.
who is, the MP, but also such a great source of information and really pertinent information about the truth and reconciliation and about, she's very much an action person, very action oriented about getting things done. So we've got that in the community as well.
Absolutely. And Jane was actually really instrumental in us hosting these sessions with Victoria, because we reached out to her office and she said there was lots of interest in offering sessions like this just based on some of the sessions that she ran earlier in the year in Markham. So
yes, I was at the Markham High School event that they ran. And one of the interesting aspects of that event is the fact that at the back of the gymnasium, they had the bookstore from the Six Nations Reserve was there, and the amount of material he had was staggering. Mm-hmm. I mean, you would really have needed a librarian to give you a little synopsis of everything. I got some amazing books, and the lineup to get books at the end was, to me, so refreshing to see.
That's great.
That there were so many people who were that interested. And he had a list a mile long of people requesting certain things that he had run out of copies of. And it's just fabulous. Yeah, it's fabulous.
It is, because, writers, authors, creators, again, many different backgrounds, many different places where they live in the world, but their messages are all really important. And, sometimes they don't get the credit that they deserve.
Mm-hmm. So what other things will you be running at the library?
Oh my gosh, what other things are we running? So we're doing this series of programs with Victoria. We have some more adult paint nights that are coming up in the fall. We have a program that we're starting tomorrow as well. If you are interested in knitting or crocheting, where you can just get together and work on your handicrafts with other
like loops.
Yeah, exactly like loops. Yeah, just with other like-minded people. So that's going to be tomorrow evening at 7 in our little fireplace lounge in the library. So sometimes those pursuits are really solitary and you want to enjoy them with the company of others. So we're doing that. Our children's program registration started at the end of August, but you'll have to contact the library for that type of thing. We're doing a lot. Yeah.
There's just all kinds of great things happening over there at the library. Mm-hmm. A lot of fun new things that people don't normally associate with libraries.
Yeah, exactly. Like crocheting and doing handicrafts, or, working with our 3D printer, or, a whole bunch of stuff.
The 3D printer still amazes me. I have a hard time getting my head around a fax machine. So, it's something else, isn't it?
It is totally something else. I'm petitioning that the next one we should get, because there are printers that will print with food products. So I'm petitioning that the next one we get is a chocolate 3D printer.
I'll sign that petition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can I sign as 3 different people?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Aliases to help us. Yeah,
because that's a really unique thing, the 3D printer, and it is the wave of the future, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And it's teaching, young and old people of any age, about the different skill sets that you need. I think that as the world changes and becomes more advanced, there were careers that are offered now that wouldn't even have been in existence. So, getting exposure to those things like coding and, all of those kind of technological skills are important. And that's another literacy piece that the library is helping with.
Mm-hmm. I like the practical side of the literacy piece, because I think that, especially for young boys, it's so hard to get them to sit down and read. I have 4 kids, so the boy thing is a different kind of a beast. They're not as likely to sit down with, my daughter loved the Dolphin World series, and she would just be so absorbed in the world of the dolphins and wanted to be a marine biologist when she was little because she loved those dolphins. And my other daughter loved Nancy Drew books, and so did I when I was a kid, which is also kind of fun that you can both like the same books. But to see the fact that the boys, so I got him some baseball books, then some hockey books, and nothing grabbed his attention. Yeah. It really didn't. It's different with boys. It's hard to get them engaged, isn't it?
It is. And, my advice to parents is, if your kid has an interest in, it doesn't matter, baking, cooking, sport, geography, whatever it is, find the books and read them. We have a lot of comics and graphic novels at the library that a lot of children are reading. And
Boys like that kind of
boys
stuff.
love it. And, I've spoken to a bunch of parents. They say, well, I'm not really keen on them reading it. I would prefer them to read introductory readers or chapter books. I said, no. I said, let them read it. They're going to learn how to read by themselves. They're going to learn the new vocabulary. It doesn't matter if they're going to read Dog Man 500 times. They're learning, they're reading, they're enjoying. And the key is that they're engaged. If you don't get them engaged, they're not going to want to explore what else is out there. So
Yeah, what was that one? The Chronicles of a Something Kid.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Yes, Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Yeah, it's still going strong, and people love it.
My son loved it.
So keep whatever their interest is in, keep them
engaged
and keep them engaged. Yeah. And we know that, studies have shown that boys tend towards, factual nonfiction stuff. They sometimes don't want the novels, but whatever it is, keep them engaged.
Yeah, my son's favorite book for years was the Ripley's Believe It or Not that comes out once a year and had all the strange Believe It or Not stories in it. And he would read that thing cover to cover.
Yep. And your son is not alone.
Not alone,
many other young boys who do the same thing. Yep. The Guinness Book of World Records. Anything
he
with
loved
facts,
that too. Yeah.
Lists. Yep.
And quirky facts and lists, not just the regular stuff, but really quirky stuff. Did you know that some guy actually walked over 5,000 tacks and, those are
the grosser, the more bizarre, the better, right?
The better it seems. It's really weird. And, for any parents out there listening, if your boys are young, they get over it. They honestly do. There will be that one book. There was a book about a child's story from Afghanistan of what they were going through. And that hooked my son in grade 8. And he read that book, and that is what
that was
took
the
him
gateway.
Off. Yeah. And all it takes is that one book. And it does happen. It will happen. Yeah. They'll stop reading cartoons and start reading books.
Or maybe they won't. There are lots of adults, writers and illustrators that make huge careers out of graphic novels, and it's still a great storytelling medium.
I know some 50-year-olds who love their cartoons still. They love their comic books.
And if you don't grow out of it, that's absolutely okay, because graphic novels are another great way to tell stories that may not be as effective just with words. Sometimes the pictures really do help. So
and it's quite a culture right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very much so.
Really, really big.
Yeah. Well, and then the library, of course, you have access to those books. You have access to all kinds of different books.
We do. And, if you can't find something, by all means ask. We have ways of getting you material that, if you have to go in a hold queue, or if we can bring something in from another library, we're happy to do that for you.
Yeah, I was very amazed recently. I was looking for a book called Getting to Yes, and it's about negotiation and things like that. And it wasn't available at any of the library sources that I went to on my computer. So I was searching for it. I know it exists in the bookstores, and, audiobooks are extremely expensive if you try to buy them. And, don't buy a car till you've driven it. I don't buy a book with a $70 investment until I've read it and decide that it's something I want to keep in my collection. So I was presented on this app that I have, the OneDrive or whatever it's called. And I was just really amazed that I could fill out this application. We don't have it now, but, are you looking for it? Libby is the app that I use. So a couple months later, I get an email saying the book that you requested is available. What? So it was found and retrieved, and I was able to read it.
There you go. So.
And it's actually a new book. It's an interactive book. So, again, I know it from an audiobook point of view, but how does it work from a
print point of view?
An ebook sort of a thing?
Well, if we don't have it, then we'll try our best to get it, or we'll try and purchase the title. Yeah. So.
Okay. So when people take out an ebook, does it just vanish in 3 weeks as well?
It does. Yeah. So there's a limit set on them. And a lot of people really like that because they don't have to be reminded to return their item because it just disappears from their account. But the downside, as you mentioned earlier, is that if you're not done the book, then sometimes you'll have to wait to queue up again for it.
Yeah. In the audiobooks, I find it very frustrating. When you go to renew it, it'll say, oh, it's 3 days, it's too early to renew. 2 days, it's too early to renew. You go on the day that it's due and it's disappeared. And then you're in a holding pattern again for another 7 weeks before you get it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's just the software. So, yeah, that'll take
some time to work out those quirks. So with an ebook, can you renew it?
You can. Yeah.
You can. So you could keep it for 6 weeks if you needed to.
If no one else is waiting for it, yes.
Okay, but if there is a hold wait, then you go back in the waiting list.
That's right.
I think the person who's reading it should have priority for at least one renew. I don't think they should be able to keep it for half a year.
No.
But if you're reading it and you have 3 weeks, I think that you should have the first option to renew.
Well, that's something we can talk about, yeah.
Yeah. Put that in your to-do list.
Yes.
Because I think that would be a nice thing to add to the software is that whoever has the book currently has priority to renew it once. Because I think even standardly, wasn't there always a maximum?
Right now, if you take out a print book from the Whitchurch Stouffville Public Library and no one is waiting for it, you can have the option to renew it 10 times.
10 times? Isn't that 3 weeks long?
Yeah. So it'd be 30 weeks. Yeah.
That's like the better part of a year.
Yeah. But if there's someone waiting for it, then you don't have that option, right?
Right.
So
that's a long time. Well, you'd hope they could read a book in less than 30 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, different circumstances, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you put it down and you want to get back to it and it's gone. So yeah, it's interesting. Now, does the interactive part of the book still function when you get it from the library as opposed to buying it at another source?
What do you mean by interactive?
So I've been noticing that a lot of the ebooks now, especially the nonfiction, work-oriented or learning-oriented books, for example, the book Crucial Conversations, when you get it in ebook format, instead of it referring you to a video that they have produced on the subject, you click on the look here for the example.
So there's
click
embedded
on it,
content.
and then the video pops up and you see a conversation between two people and you're thinking, yeah, that's it. And it's really cool.
Okay.
Does that still happen when you get it from the library?
I would think so, but I have not tried it personally.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you're going home with a whole bunch of things to write on your list.
You're giving me homework.
Check this out. Check it out. See what happens. Yeah. It's a whole new world. I mean, to me, a book that comes alive like that is spectacular. To me, it's magic. I know to the kids of today, they're just accustomed to that kind of thing, but I just think that's magic.
Yes and no, right? Like, I think that, again, it goes back to different ways to tell a story and different ways that people learn, right? I think that people are catching on to the fact that not everybody reads in the same way or learns in the same way. So really, it's a marketing standpoint. They can sell more if they have all these extra features, right?
Right.
So
it's kind of neat too, because one of the good things about most nonfictions that you read is the fact that there's usually a bibliography to tell you where they have garnished their information.
Yes.
And now, at the end of the book, there's a link right to the next thing or the link right to that piece of information that you're looking for. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's the connectivity has definitely increased for sure, and making it easier for people who are interested in whatever topic it is to find more on that topic.
Yeah, the researching aspect is really, really complex now. And it used to be that you would sit at a library desk, and it was a desk like a boardroom desk, and you could have like 50 books open and you're going from one to the other, and now you're just clicking a button and going back from page to page, book to book. It's just fabulous.
Yeah, for the space it takes up for sure. I think that people would still, I would like to think that there are still people out there who, have the 50 books on the desk. And
I like the feel of a book, quite honestly. And often if I read an ebook or I listen to an audiobook, if I really like it, I buy a hardcover or a softcover, and I read it and I have it there in its physical form, and I like to underline and I like to write my little notes in the side and that kind of thing. Textile means something to me.
Yeah, and I have people, who come and say the same thing, and they say, enjoy listening to audiobooks. I really enjoy downloading things on my e-reader, but I still need to feel a book in my hands.
I often have an audiobook going in my car and the hard copy in my room. So when I read at night before I go to bed, I've got my hard copy. That's for my nighttime reading, and my in the car reading, I'll have to fast forward. Oh yeah, I read that last night.
So you pick up.
Pick up where I left off, and I've got the two mediums going.
That a lot. Yeah.
Well, it works for me. I don't know about other people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your comment about, I think that because our society too is busy and going and moving, people consume things in different ways too, right? If you're commuting, then maybe that hour or 2 hours is the only time you're going to get to read or listen to a book. So audiobooks are a great choice for you, right?
I can't read if I'm in a car or a train or a bus.
So there you go.
It gives me motion sickness to have my head down reading something, but I can stick in a pair of headphones and be listening to a book.
Yeah. And you know, that comes alive in a different way too, because you're hearing the different voices and the different, you know, sometimes they add, you know, sound effects. So that's fun as well.
In some of the audiobooks, most of them are read by one author, and it's not that way. But I actually just finished reading the Happiness book or something. It was with Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama. And it's read with the two voices of the different men. And it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Because it is a lot based on dialogue. So there's a narrator who is just telling the story, and then there's the voices of the two men. And I'm not sure it's their exact voices, but it's people who are portraying the voices.
Nice.
It's wonderful. And it's such a great listen because you've got three voices. You're not getting bored with one voice, and it was so well done.
All right.
But again, because there were so many proverbs and there were so many things that were discussed in such a rich way, I'm going to buy the book because I would like to have the hard copy to refer to on a dime when I need. There was a good quote that those two guys said, you know, and it's blending two religions and two philosophies of life. It was wonderful.
Very much so.
Yeah. So I think the art of storytelling is still alive.
Very much so. And
I think it does kind of trigger us in a very primitive way back to the whatever muscle memory we have from way back when the bards would come into a village and tell the news of what was going on in another village. We still seem to relate to that kind of a storytelling.
Absolutely. Like if I can, you know, if you see some of the participants in our children's story time, the adults are just as engaged in the stories as the children are, you know, so you're never too old to be read to or to have the power of a story for sure.
I actually heard a really interesting statistic last year that Canada is one of the top poetry reading countries in the world. People who read poetry, which is really interesting.
That is really interesting.
Not that we're the top writing of poetry, but the top reading of poetry. And not the top, but one of the top. And I think that's a really interesting thing. It says a lot for our society. It kind of makes me smile. I like that.
I like that too. I know. And I think that, you know, there's statistics over statistics, but yeah, I like that.
It is a nice thing. Maybe we should start that at the library too. Gosh, there's another thing you have to write down.
Well, yes, I know. My list is growing ever longer here.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to need to give you another piece of paper. Yeah. Well, I'm very happy that you were able to join us this morning. We are running out of time, as we always do on this show. If you'd like to know more information about the library, who do they call or how do they get there?
Best way is to visit the library's website. So it's www.wsplibrary.ca.
Perfect. And if they want to call or go over, you're on Park Drive.
Yeah, we're at number 2 Park Drive, which was part of the Leisure Center. And just come on over.
Yeah. Okay. Terrific. That's so wonderful that you were able to join us this morning. We were going to have Victoria Grant. We don't know what happened there, but I'm sure there's a good reason. I just hope that she's well and safe. Coming up next week on Fresh Waves, we have Yolana Pettifer in the studio again. Yolana is our resident interior designer and decorator. She always comes with a wealth of knowledge. We'll be talking about some fall decorating, but I think we're going to be talking about framing this and framing that and hanging it on the wall, or maybe not even hanging it on the wall, maybe just leaning it against the wall. There's all kinds of neat things to talk about with Yolana. We're never out of subjects to talk about. So, Jay, thank you for all your work behind the board today.
My pleasure.
And if anyone wants to hear this show again, how do they get a hold of us and how do they listen to the podcast?
Yes, you can go to freshwaves.ca and you can click on the shows section in there. And this show repeats on Sunday at 10 a.m. And the
podcast will be ready by Thursday at...
Thursday evening, yeah.
Thursday evening.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We've had a great day. Thank you for joining us. Kate, we really appreciate you being here this morning.
My pleasure.
And everybody should go and see Victoria speak tomorrow night. And if you're listening to a podcast of this, don't go tomorrow night. Because tomorrow night may not be the day we're talking about. It is
So it's Thursday, September 13th, and the program begins at 6:30.
Okay. And if you have missed Victoria's talk, you can go on to the freshwaves.ca website, listen to the podcast of what she was speaking about in the spring. And I'm sure the library, if people ask, will have Victoria back to do some more stuff in the future. So do stay tuned for that. We've got great programming coming up this afternoon on Whistle FM. So tune into your local community radio station, 102.9 FM in downtown Stouffville and whistlefm.com anywhere in the world. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe and be kind. You've been listening to Fresh Waves, a Whistle FM production. I'm your host, Brenda Masson, and our technical producer is Jason Rumball. Tune in every Wednesday at 10 a.m. for Fresh Waves here on Whistle FM, 102.9 on the FM dial and whistlefm.com anywhere in the world. Fresh Waves is available on podcast too. Just go to whistlefm.ca or freshwaves.ca. We podcast all of the Fresh Waves shows so that you can listen at your leisure. Fresh Waves. It really is fresh.